Grand evening. This is NAGA Knowledge. Normally I'll get on here and drop a jewel about something that's particular that may have a standpoint or insight. But tonight I felt like dropping a story. Something a little extraordinary. So I used to hang with this older fella back like 6-7 years ago. And he would tell me some interesting things. Sometimes we would talk about Mason understanding because he believed I carried a 33-degree knowledge by the things I was aware of. Hold on. So one night we was building and I was telling about things I saw manifest in the skies after meditation and stuff of that nature. And he used to be like, that's interesting. He said, I want to tell you something. After we was talking something of a latent biblical aspect. And that biblical aspect was focusing on who was the people that the first two people got sent amongst. Saying like if it was an Adam and Eve aspect, who were the people that they got sent to or sent upon? Like when they left the garden, who was the people? When they said, I send you amongst the people. We would dwell on that conversation for a minute. But as this conversation would dwindle down into an aspect of our own fortitude as far as how we perceived it, he said, hey, man, let me tell you something I experienced one night. And I was like, sure. He's like, I'm riding around in Columbia, and he goes down this dirt road off on the west end. He goes down this dirt road, and it's this old house. And the old house was, old wooden house. Grass was growed up all around it. Dirt road. People really didn't go down there much, but you can see the house from, probably a quarter, half mile down. Because the road kind of like, turned a little bit. They knew it was back there, but nobody went back there because it was an old house. So he said he went down this road one night, turned his lights off. And he got down to the old house. And so he noticed it was a faint light through a scratch on the pane. I guess the panes was covered in paint or something, or covered up somehow. But he noticed it was like a faint light. So he goes up to the spot. Before he got a chance to actually enter the spot, he said a big bright light popped up over the spot in the aerial aspect. I'm like, aerial aspect? What you mean? He was like, believe it or not, it was something hovering above it. He was like, at first, I thought it was one of these military ships. Or I thought it was something. He's like, shit, I'm an old head. I ain't really, wasn't thinking about spaceships and shit. This is what he told me. So I'm like, what happened? Like, standing out there. Light was bright. It was hovering over. He's like, I got scared. My heart was pounding. I went to turn away and run back to my car. He said, as soon as he did that, a figure appeared in front of him, about 8 feet tall. Dark individual. Dark clothes on. He said he can barely see the dude, like he couldn't, like his information in his mind wouldn't let him see what the entity was, but he had to like focus. He said what he did, he could tell that the individual or the entity had triple black colored skin. He's 8 feet tall. And he said he had an endowed conversation with this individual. And they were speaking about things that the normal person didn't know. But I'm like, so get to the situation. He was like, nah, man. The things that he told me, man. Nah. I was like, so share it with me. Hold on. I'm like, share it with me. He like, nah, man. I need you to understand, man. I need you to understand where I'm coming from. And I'm like, well, just tell me what happened. He's like, I'm trying to tell you, but you're not listening. I was like, I am listening to you. What happened? What he said to you? And funny thing is he couldn't wrap his mind around explaining to me what actually took place. It was more the fact that it happened that blew his mind. So from this time, he was always telling me that he was, kind of an elderly elderly brother, you know what I'm saying? He did a couple things that we call in the hood some ill natural, you know what I'm saying? He lived like one of the ill natural brothers, you know. So I kind of figured that, you know, maybe he just tweaking or something. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he going through something, you know what I mean? Maybe he go get his fix or something, you know, I don't know. But I listened to the old head. For some reason, it made me focus on what he was saying. And I was vibing with him more that I could hear his story because I could feel his intent. I could feel what made him feel such a certain way when he was trying to deliver this story to me. So here I go. I'm like, but man, you ain't really told me what he said to you. And it was like my brain was on fire because I wanted to hear what the words that the entity was saying to him. But he kept telling me it wasn't important. He was like, everybody will know soon. I was like, how soon? What does that mean? Like the more he said things, the more it was like leading to a circumstance that just wasn't available for us to understand. So either way, I'm like, man, you ain't even tell me nothing, man. The only thing you talking about is you seen some shit. But then he's like, nah, bro. He's like, after the thing was telling me or kind of like putting the information inside my head, because he said it wasn't really no words. He was like, he was downloading it inside of me while I was standing in front of him. But I felt the fear like I ain't never felt before. I was like, what you was scared of? He's like, I don't know. He was 8 feet tall. So it was like I had to kind of decipher, in a sense, without knowing what the decipher would be. Then he told me, he's like, man, you just got to know there's something else going on here, man. And you got to be mindful. It's way deeper than what we think. That's why they put military bases everywhere. And I'm like, wow, okay. You're going somewhere, but I don't know where you're going. You know what I'm saying? But he was like, man, this dude was perfect black. He was like perfect black, man. It was like he can blend in with the night around him. He was like, I ain't never been so scared in my life. But I ain't had to be scared. I'm like, all right, I feel you. Then, all of a sudden, I turned my head, and he was gone. And the lights that was above the house took off out of the sky in a snap. I was like, wow. I felt wind, and I knew he was gone. The presence left. So I jumped in my car and hauled ass. Like, man, that's a weird story, bro. I don't know how to swallow that. You know what I mean? He was like, man, it happened. But you know, automatically you think it's liquor, it's drugs, it's something, man. You think, you know. But the look on his eyes, though, that shit was different. It hit different. And I was just like, okay, I hear you, OG. I'm listening to you. And he got mad at me. He was like, you're not listening to me. I'm like, yo, what you yelling for? What you yelling for? Why you talking to me like that? He's like, listen, young blood, you smart to understand, man. I know you feel the vibes. And I was like, I pick them up, but just don't know where you're going, OG. He was like, yeah, you know where I'm going. Almost like he was feeling me. He was like, you act like you don't know right now, but you know it's inside of you. It's inside all of us. We just don't pay attention to it. She was blowing my mind, man, you know what I'm saying? And the more he talked, the more he solidified a feeling. And I was like, all right, but we know about the perfect black. Why everybody's still running towards the light. I ain't gonna hold you. I just wanted to show you a little something. And I know this story probably don't mean much. Probably people won't visualize it or won't even get a chance to listen to this because, you know, I don't get too many people coming to my page. But for the most part, I felt the vibe of what the old head was talking about. And I kind of knew where it was coming from because you know what? You look up in the skies at night, it's darkness everywhere, baby. And that's the only way you can see the stars. So you got to wonder, what is up there? What's around? You know, sometimes the trees, they seem tall, but the darkness always seems taller. And for us to be so oblivious to what possibly could be, that's just the whole story in itself. Look, I ain't gonna hold y'all. I just wanted to share an experience that had a base but didn't really have a base, but it had more of an inside key. So if you can vibe with this story, leave a like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think about it. Give me some insight on how you feel about this story. You already know the vibes. NAGA.